You're listening to the Digital Deep Dive, where we tackle the newest trends, strategies, and pain points shaping growth across the digital landscape. From Amazon and D2C to international expansion, join our host and e-commerce leaders across multiple industries for in-depth discussions on how to maximize your brands in the digital arena. Now, here's your host, Aaron Conant.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Digital Deep Dive podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Conant, and just going to start off a great conversation today with a good friend, Rick Watson. He's carved out an hour or so. I'm trying to get an hour and a half, but I couldn't quite do it. But just all around great resource for the network and everybody across digital as a whole. But Rick, do you want to jump in quick with just a brief intro on yourself? That'd be awesome.
So my name is Rick Watson. I'm founder and CEO of RMW Commerce Consulting. And so I work with a lot of private equity-backed brands, mostly on their digital commerce strategies, whether it's B2B or marketplaces like Amazon or direct-to-consumer. So helping them accelerate their business. Usually, a lot of times my customers are early in their journey. And so they don't even necessarily know what they don't know, which is, so I kind of act as their guide, really on kind of their side of the table as they kind of navigate this whole digital world that we're all in.
Awesome. And you have a podcast of your own as well, right? You want to share with that? I love it. I think there's a lot of people out there who do.
I do. So I a little over a year ago, I started a podcast called The Watson Weekly. It's just a weekly digest of e-commerce news and my analysis of it. It's a lot of fun to produce. So and the feedback on it has been really great in the last year. So I'm excited about that.
Awesome. So let's kick off. A couple of things top of mind for me. We were kind of chatting a little bit where what's going on with Amazon and their finances, but also TikTok and then also supply chain. They're going to be three fun topics. So
cool.
Where would you like to start?
Yeah, let's start with TikTok because I think it was the weirdest thing today that we heard about this week. And I think it just took a lot of people by surprise. Like, what does TikTok have to do with supply chain?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they say that with TikTok with a lot of things, right?
Right.
I was in this I was in back and forth on LinkedIn a little bit where, there's an article that put out like TikTok is, challenging Google as a search engine. And they're like, yeah, but that's just for Gen Z. Like, well, yeah, but it's challenging Google as a search engine, right? And it's more viewable hours than YouTube. Like, it's a serious challenger.
Right. Yeah. And those people are getting older. So it's not a good directional indicator for Google.
No, not at all. But then you have the TikTok side is monetizing it. And I don't know, it's going to be super interesting. I think Google comes hardcore trying to mimic the TikTok content and over the next, I don't know, they've got to do it over the next year. Because TikTok is growing so fast.
Yeah, YouTube Shorts are catching up to it, but let's get to what TikTok announced this week. Or what? Actually, the funny thing is TikTok didn't announce anything. They've been posting job listings for fulfillment, and I think an Axios reporter spied it, and who's kind of trolling LinkedIn or whatever how they do it, and it just caused this buzz in the world where why is TikTok building fulfillment centers? What are they doing? What could they be thinking? And so I've actually, literally right before our call, I was on the phone with a Wall Street Journal reporter talking about what is supply chain and what TikTok could be doing here. And so I think this will be a fun conversation. I think there are really two parts to this story. Number one is I don't think TikTok is building any warehouses, so we can kind of just get that out of the way at the beginning. It's going to be a much more of a virtual strategy, kind of like what Shopify is attempting to do. It's like software to connect to existing networks of, fulfillment centers and importing and, things like this. But then the second part of it is the demand side, which is obviously a very important supply chain function is deciding how much to order. And if you're a creator that has become an international retailer because now a manufacturer wants to partner with you to sell an exclusive line of products to your fans, you have to think about the same kinds of decisions that a retailer thinks about, like which SKU should I order? What should they look like? How many do I need to order? Where do I put them? How am I going to get them into the country? Is it legal to sell them here? Which 3PL should I use? Where should it be? All these questions that, if I'm an influencer, I certainly don't know anything about.
Yeah, but I mean, if people are going to leverage the platform, there's so many people on it now. And, right now, a lot of what's happening, right, is there's links put in there and it drives you offer to a direct to consumer site, but they don't actually want you to leave the platform. So build in the fulfillment aspect of it, build in everything around it so you can just interact in that ecosystem.
Right.
And the conversion happens on the platform and then they keep scrolling. But yeah, I mean, what they have to have in place is both the front end and the back end, right? Is the data analysis, what to actually make, how much to produce, where's it going, what's the right language to put on it. And then the flip side is if people order it, how do you get it to them? Right. Where everybody today needs or wants same day, next day delivery.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's a big deal. And I think, as a marketplace, TikTok, which is kind of like what we're talking about here, TikTok becoming a marketplace that's backed by some fulfillment network, whether it's their own or using someone else's, they have to be very concerned with the types of products that are on there. Is it fraud? Is it counterfeit? Is it legal to sell this product into this country, or is it a restricted good? Is it perfume, which means it can't be shipped on a plane, or does it have to go ground? Like all these things that clearly Amazon is very good at worrying about, but TikTok really has no idea about. So it's going to have to hire companies with expertise to think about questions like this for their influencers. So I think that's another thing that's super interesting. And if you kind of looked at some of the job listings that were posted, part of the responsibilities is to figure out things like customs. Like if a creator says, "Hey, my manufacturer's in China and my audience is in the US, how do I get this into the country?" Right.
Yeah, in the rate that they're growing, it's worth the investment, right? That's where people are taking a step back and saying, "Hey, is it really worth TikTok doing this?" I understand the front end fulfillment side, right? Getting it to the end consumer. But that only happens if you can get the goods here. Right. It only happens. And so they're taking this approach, which I think is the right one, right? Because it is such a creator-based platform, right? Not your, traditional, PVH, VF Corp, it's not the massive conglomerates that already have the massive distribution supply chain set up and can get it here easily. It's a creator-based world or platform that they don't know how to do it. And they don't necessarily want to get in trouble. And so you're either going to provide this option for them, or they're just not going to do it, or they'll try to do it. And like you're saying, get hit with customs or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, to your question, and we were talking about Gen Z a little bit, I'm just kind of looking at 20% of Gen Z spends more than 5 hours every day on TikTok.
Yeah. I tell you, and
everyone believes that. No one questions that number.
The average, like last spring, the average across everything, I think, was 88 minutes, and it was only growing.
So everyone believes that this could be a huge thing, especially by everything kind of obeys sort of a power law where kind of the biggest influencers are going to get the most of the eyeballs and they have the biggest earning potential, particularly for an initiative like this with e-commerce. Whereas the long tail, it's going to be much smaller. And so it'll be interesting to see if the biggest influencers are really drawn to this. And then how do you predict that from a logistics point of view? Because I don't know about you, like most logistics firms don't love spiky events.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, not at all. I mean,
right. They like consistent volume that they can staff for, all these things.
But that's not how, I have a lot of conversation with brands around, we've done a lot on TikTok lately. The question comes up, well, how do I get something to go viral? And you're like, you don't. Like literally, it's a numbers game. It's literally a numbers game. So, if it's 1 out of every 1,000 you do, and you want 10, you better do 10,000. It's not like you can hone in on that one and say, hey, what was special? Now, obviously there's best practices and length and everything else, but you can't make it go viral.
No, it's not possible.
But that's what they want to do. But again, getting to your point of the spikes. So it's completely random. It's completely random with completely random products with completely random creators, which
no, for sure.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, look, the good thing about TikTok is the fact that they're seeking this data. Obviously there's going to be a lot of learning, 6 months to a year, but after a while you start to learn. And you can build patterns, you can build databases of, these 100 creators did this volume and they had this audience. And as a result, we can start to predict, you can start to train and literally, some of the job listings, they're hiring data scientists to do prediction of this sort of thing based on training data. And that's going to take some time for them to build up, but it is possible.
Yeah. I mean, and at the end of the day, they control the algorithm and they can drive traffic and promote whatever they want on the back end. And I mean, we think about where Amazon originally back in the day, right? It was all about the trust around the ratings and the reviews, and it was user generated and authentic. And now Amazon is pay to play, right? And there's, a little bit of distrust sometimes in the ratings and reviews that are out there. But just look at a detail page now. Amazon can drive traffic wherever they want, however they want, based on the search and their algorithm on the back end that's driving you there. But also it's pay to play with all the ads. And to make the ads, people keep pouring in money for ads. Those ads have to convert, which they are. And so I think TikTok will figure it out. I think they'll figure out faster than a lot of people think.
Yeah. Or it could be like Amazon where, you don't have to pay to play, but you also don't need to show up on page 1 anymore either. Right? Like, good luck.
So I think it's a good segue. So the other one, we chatted a little bit around Amazon and where they stand right now. I've seen some interesting things go on the inventory holding side and so I'll run down this one just a little bit because it's super interesting. Is over the past couple of years when, supplies were short, right? In short supply, everybody was short. Amazon was buying up at a crazy rate to hold sometimes 10, 12, 14 weeks of inventory because they wanted to make sure that they had it, satisfy the customer, make sure we have it. And if nobody else has it, that's great because we're going to be the only ones that have it.
Right.
Well, now I have a lot of companies with a surplus, right? I have some companies sitting on 50 weeks of inventory.
Oh, wow.
And Amazon sits back and says, if you've got 50, I don't have to hold 12, 14 anymore. I can hold 2 because I know as soon as if I give you that PO at 3:00 on a Friday afternoon, you'll have your team ship it by 4. I mean, you want to get it out the door. And so we found this crazy space where, usually after Prime Day, bunch of POs come rolling back in to restock and they didn't come in. And now it's just kind of slow rolling. Amazon's ordering, less now as frequently as they did before, but in lower quantities. And I think people were thinking they were going to be able to catch back up. And I don't think they are. It's this, there's not a time of scarcity for a lot of products anymore. And so Amazon's like, I don't need to hold that much.
Right. No, I think that's right. And I think, because brands are having this extra inventory, and previously they were hoping that all of their inventory was going to be ordered by retailers. That has stopped. Now brands are starting to ask other retailers, "Hey, can I drop ship for you?" Which they never used to do before.
Yeah,
and, that's the last thing they wanted to do was drop ship for someone else. But they have this inventory anyway, and so why not make use of it?
Yeah. And the other interesting thing is as people have focused on, because they have this extra inventory, it used to be you could just go out and liquidate it.
Right.
Well, now you're really limited on where you can liquidate it, because if you liquidate it in the channels from 5, 6, 7 years ago, those channels are just going to put it back on Amazon.
Right.
And it's going to drop the price. And then you're going to be in the world of hurts across the board.
Or by the
It's like,
way, if Amazon bought it and then they're not selling it, where is it going to go in a few weeks? Warehouse
house
deals.
deals.
Warehouse deals, right? I mean, you're going to be competing with yourself from
Yeah.
your own partner.
So now you're stuck with all this inventory. And yeah, I mean, it's drop shipping. The interesting play that I've seen in this space, though, is an increased look at international, where they're finally saying, wait a minute. So we've got, 380 million people in the US. Wait, there's another 7 billion across the globe. Maybe we
Maybe I
should
ship some over there.
Yeah.
Right.
At least get it far enough away that it can't come back across the border, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't liquidate to Canada, Mexico. You can't do it. It all comes right back in. But
Right. Yeah.
duty and tariff free.
No, it's a challenge. I think one of the challenges in the environment right now is the dollar is so high. And so the exchange rates are not favorable for export right now.
Right.
For the US brands that are holding inventory. So it's a little bit of a perfect storm for those brands. Most people are just writing it down, or some of the retailers that are more in trouble are really just trying to hold on to it and hopefully they can bleed it off later on.
Yeah, I think as we get into Q4 here, that is really going to see the discounts come back, right? They're going to have to try to move inventory, where the past couple of years that hasn't happened, right? They're like, I'm probably going to go out of stock. Why would I give 20% off, 30% off, 40% off? I can keep it full price because, demand is, 50,000 units on this SKU and I've only got 10. So I'm not going to discount it. What does that mean for an Amazon? Like, I mean, you look at their earnings as a whole and kind of when they're looking around, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, look, I think they're going to lean in the third party. I think they are going to, kind of to your earlier point, want to hold less inventory, which should decrease first party purchase orders to, vendors in Vendor Central. And so I think brands are going to need to be ready for that. I think, I think that's going to be the status quo for a little while. I mean, it's not any more complex than that.
No, I agree. They're not going to want to hold the inventory. Why? And especially if people want to move it and they can collect, storage fees on it. That's, through a third party side. What I've seen, even Amazon, who's told some companies in the past, like you can only be 1P, on the vendor side, saying, actually, third party might be okay. You want to stick it in FBA? And then in that case, just, I don't know. There's the balance then of how people look at it. Do I stick in FBA because it's going to be the quickest? FBA fees are going up. Or do I find one of these digital age 3PLs that are out there that distributed logistics, forward deployed inventory, and they can hit, across the US in 1 to 2 days.
Yeah.
But you're not tied in to an Amazon FC.
Yeah. But that is if you can get approved for FBM, which most people can't do.
Yeah. Well, but that's why a lot of them are going with not your traditional 3PLs. They a lot of times struggle.
Yeah.
But there's a couple new digital age, I call them digital age 3PLs. They don't want the full truckload, the LTL going to Walmart and Target. They want the Amazon backup for when they go out of stock and then drop shipping. So all of a sudden you can list everything you want on, the Amazon or the Walmart marketplace. Target's doing a big push here, to get their marketplace, expanded from what it was before. But all of a sudden you can hit all these different marketplaces and expand your offering and then move a lot more inventory.
But no, I think that's right. So it'll be interesting to see what before it seems like the categories had all the leeway to make their own decisions about should we let this vendor be on 3P or not? It was all up to the vendor manager. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if in a time like this, does Amazon relax the rules for this globally or on a category basis, or how are they going to treat this time? for 3P?
My guess is completely randomly.
Right. There won't be a coordinated plan.
Yeah, I would say that they will be consistently inconsistent, which is in a weird way being consistent in and of itself, right? It's just the way it's always been. Everything seems to be inconsistent. When I talk to brands, like, I'm looking for a great Amazon forecasting tool.
Great.
Yeah, right.
So is everyone.
The world.
Right. So is everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is Amazon, but to be honest with you.
Yeah. But I mean, they've got the buy with Prime, which I know is starting to do a big push right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another way of, hey, how can we get more of your inventory inside? You have to be tied in with Amazon Pay to make that work, which I think is good. I think it's a great option for a lot of companies out there. I think it's a trap for some companies out there. Right. I mean, if you're truly digitally native and you want that personal touch, then it probably should still come out of your FC or, your own drop shipping FC rather than Amazon's.
Right.
And it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
They're kind of in beta for that now. And I think the scary thing about what their view of the world is now is, off Amazon e-commerce is growing faster than Amazon e-commerce. And so Amazon is trying to tap into that by being a payment and logistics provider for kind of the rest of the world. And are people going to overcome their trust issues? I think the low-hanging fruit is the existing FBA users, right? Well, of which that's like 2/3 of, third-party sellers at least are already using FBA, and probably, by this point, most sellers have at least some e-commerce, and so those people will probably be open to Amazon, running some direct-to-consumer fulfillment within certain constraints. But when you start to think about other brands, the older school brands, I think are going to be very resistant to the idea.
Oh, for sure. They have. I mean, I did a podcast with Corey over at Da Vinci Micro Fulfillment. He's doing something that's really cool that, a lot of people are going with. I did one with Dave Glick from Flex. Yeah. They're doing something that's really neat. I think, it's just interesting. Like, over and over again, people are coming back to realize that the supply chain and logistics is actually the heart of all e-commerce. And it's actually why Amazon did so well, right? Is they figured it out.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of funny that everyone like, 17 years to learn that? I don't know.
Yeah. But they're finally unraveling it and figuring it out. Oh, wait, Amazon's a logistics company.
Right.
That's what they are. Supply chain logistics. And they figured that all out. And they just happen to sell a bunch of stuff. And then they do advertising on top of it. Right. Which Amazon advertising, I've just watched that change over the years. Mm-hmm. And they just did their marketing stream, which is pretty cool. So you can see the day parting and everything on it, or the time of day, so you can actually do accurate day parting, day gating, however you want to say it. Mm-hmm. But I have tons of money just pouring back into it. I keep going back to the iOS 14.5 update, where I had a lot of brands not wanting to put any more into Amazon. They wanted to grow direct to consumer. And then that took Facebook sideways. And, you have executive teams and CFOs and CMOs wanting to see, KPIs hit, not just ROAS.
Right.
And Amazon's a money lever to pull people. I really think the reason Google kicked out third-party cookie deprecation is they saw that was roughly only 1/3 of companies had done anything to prep for it to go away.
Yeah, it's going to take some time. Take some time.
Yeah. Nobody wants a third-party cookie to go away. And me as a consumer, I don't really care either. The iOS 14.5 update was just awkward, right?
What I want to go away is the cookie banner. I don't want the cookie to go. I want the cookie banner to go away.
The cookie banner. What do you mean the cookie banner?
The one I see on every website I visit.
Hmm.
Do you allow cookies or not? That's what I would love to go.
Did anybody care when they allow cookies? I don't think anybody cared. Like, just, yes, stop asking me.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Anyway,
That's when all the apps were tracking you. And, so it bothered, people. I understand it a little bit. But then the way they asked it, right? Everything's like, hey, do you want me to follow you everywhere and track everything you're doing? Like,
no. Yes.
No. I've seen a lot,
They really cared about privacy, they would just shut it off.
Yeah.
They would default it to no, but no, they don't care. They're just wanted to have an option for it.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I mean, it's almost we're at a point, everybody talks about gamification. And I think the consumer now is trying to gamify personalization, right? Which is like, I want to say, I'm going to say, ask app not to track. And I'm going to say, give you all my privacy. Don't use any of my data. Just magically find out who I am.
Right.
Right. And if you can do that, I'll be super loyal because I will be amazed that you were able to do that.
Right. Yeah. I think most people don't want that.
What's that?
Most people are willing to give information to companies to help them out.
Yeah, right companies.
Yes. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
But you
not just anyone. I agree.
Exactly. And so what's hard to do is find the select ones.
Right.
Right. And if you do, then you shut off the rest of the world because I'm only going to give it to these few. But if these guys over here, if somebody can figure me out, I'll then give them my loyalty.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, by the way, I mean, it wasn't consumers that led this iOS revolution. You know what I mean? In a way, maybe, yeah, because Apple wants to make sure that their platform is secure and that they have a good message against other players. But people didn't uninstall Facebook on their iPhone.
Yeah.
Because they were being tracked. They were amazed at how relevant their ads were.
Yeah.
And how Facebook actually knew that they could. I mean, to me, that's more true.
Yeah, I mean, all these guys want a closed ecosystem, and they want to get as much money out of it as possible without sharing with sharing as little data to outside ecosystems as possible.
Right.
So other things that are like top of mind for you. I mean, we hit TikTok. That's super interesting. We kind of hit Amazon across the board. Just hit a little bit of paid media. Other things that you see popping up that just piqued your interest over the past couple of weeks here?
Yeah. I mean, I think, the biggest thing, we saw the notices in the last couple of days, Kroger buying Albertsons. That's a pretty big move in, U.S. grocery market. Albertsons hasn't had the best go of it recently, particularly from a profitability point of view. And I think Kroger is looking to gain some scale against Walmart. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any regulatory blockers for that. I'm not sure because, reduces competition in the market, but there's a lot of markets where they don't overlap.
Yeah.
And so this will definitely help Kroger compete more. Will it improve their margins? I don't know. But because it's very hard to integrate two companies, especially two big ones.
Yeah, it doesn't go over super smooth normally. I mean, I just see their IT departments just absolutely freaking out right now.
Oh, I know. I know. No, it's let's build this integration plan.
Yeah.
And these are the numbers we committed to?
Yeah.
Who made these numbers? I think we've all been involved in an acquisition in our careers at some point. And there's a spreadsheet that's made about how much financial sense this is going to make for everyone. And then that's given to the poor souls that need to implement it.
It's funny, when I first got started in digital, they moved me into the IT department because I was disruptive, right, to the traditional relationships that were there.
You're a rebel, Aaron.
Yeah. And, sitting inside IT then, I realized they're probably the most underappreciated department in the company.
Right.
Because they're responsible not only to make sure your computer turns on every day or your monitor when you forgot to plug it in, or your laptop, but every single login for the entire company works every single time. And every order that comes in through your ERP system. Oh, by the way, you have to plug in your social media listing tool, your direct consumer site. They're updating your ERP, to do individual pick, pack, ship in your one business unit. It was super interesting to sit back and then see the projects come through that need like another 150 people thrown at them.
Right.
Then they have no budget to do it.
Right. Yeah. No, for sure. It kind of depends on what IT team you're on. You're on the disruptive one, but there are a lot of IT teams that don't want to do any new projects because it adds risk to their job.
Yeah.
And it would just give them more hassles to worry about.
They're going to field more calls for sure.
Right. Yeah. Like, why would I agree to this ever? So no, I think grocery is interesting, with kind of even going back to Amazon for a second. What does all this Amazon cost cutting mean for their grocery plans? Because they were planning to continue rolling out Amazon Fresh. Is that going to go forward in this kind of environment? I don't think anyone can imagine Amazon building 1,000 new stores in the next year. For instance, in this kind of economy.
Yeah, I don't know. Across the board, Amazon Fresh I don't think it's ever really taken off as it was imagined. And I know a lot of companies, when you factor in their overall marketing spend to be a part of the platform, or break even or negative, or very low single digit margins on any of that business because it was so expensive to participate in. And at that rate, the only way it happens, I believe, which Amazon does this all the time, right, is if they can leverage the brands to fund a good portion of it. I mean, Amazon likes to do that over and over and over again. Perfect example is like if you're on the vendor side and you get an SVS, you're basically training another vendor manager on your company's dime. So I could see if Amazon could talk the companies into doing it and to help pay for it. In some, I don't know how it would work, but if they could, the current environment, I can't see it happening either. I can't see brands wanting to index more, especially in the grocery space where, they're seeing increase on the Walmart side. Outside of grocery, Walmart, marketplace, Walmart.com hasn't really ramped up a ton. But if you're in a traditional grocery run, like you've seen some really, really good gains over the past year or two. So
yeah, speaking of gains, my grocery bill keeps going up.
Oh gosh, I've got 4 kids and I go to Costco. Like,
right.
I used to joke about getting out of there for under $300, and now it's like under $400. It's like,
yeah, but you're filling up your, the back of your Suburban or like whatever it is you're driving.
No, minivan. I'm a 2 minivan family.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, the 2 minivans.
But yeah,
what gets you most excited over the next year? Anything cool that's popping up that you're for?
Look, I think the thing that's most exciting are a couple things. Number one is like helping brands plan in these uncertain times. That's actually an exciting challenge because anyone could just say, "Oh, let's increase last year's 20%," and that's how we feel like we've been for a long time now, since 2009, basically, until the pandemic hit. And now we're getting into a time where things are mixed. Everything isn't down, everything isn't up. We're somewhere in the middle. And so I think based on your category and based on your type of customer, it's become harder to run a business. And so I think learning who the great operators are and helping them succeed is super interesting. I think that's one thing that I'm excited about. And I think second is it'll be interesting to see what Shopify comes up with on the logistics side, right? I mean, they've made a pretty big bet and they haven't made any major announcements this year. 2023 is coming up. So they're going to have to do something, in a pretty major way and they've kind of very publicly said that this is their most important priority. So I think the market is expecting a lot from them. And there's a lot of kind of eyes on that approach. And I think from a board director point of view, like, oh, sellers need to ship things. Shopify helps sellers. We should help people ship things. Like that kind of like 1 + 1 = 3, or that makes sense. But when you get down below that and you start peeling the onion, like, okay, what does Shopify do when? How is it integrated? How is it going to work? What are the rates going to be? Where's the inventory going to go? Like all of these are the hard questions that I think will be interesting to see come out.
Yeah. When I think about that, what happens a lot of times is you keep bolting on new options, right? You become less streamlined. Right. Every time you build this incredibly streamlined ship that's just doing amazing things. And then you want to add a satellite on the top. And then you want to, add jet skis on the back, or you want to put a camera on the side or whatever. Everything you do increases the drag as a whole.
Right.
And you have to be very strategic as you start adding these different parts on, or you see these really incredibly sleek companies start to get bulky and they start to slow down. There's too much drag. And there's other people there waiting, right, to jump in. I think I'm most excited on my side. It's just, I think AI, this term AI, I think we're getting to a point where there's actually some AI out there. It's not just like the Mechanical Turk where they say it's AI and they outsource it and it goes over and a bunch of people pound away on keys and kick back the answers.
Right.
I think we're actually getting to a point where
there's real things.
Yeah. And it can help a marketer out, because right now, over the past 3 years, nobody has seen their job change more than the marketer, the digital marketer. Where I mean, think about everything they're expected to learn and every new tool that comes out and the strategy behind it and how everything's supposed to be connected together and where all the data goes, and then use it, be responsible for it. Oh, by the way, here's a bigger budget. What are your KPIs and how are you building out your team to do it? And there was only 100 people that could do it 3 years ago, and we need 1,000 of them right now. And so, but anyways, any key takeaway as we wrap up here? I know.
Yeah, no, look, I think the biggest thing is in any kind of fluid environment, if you're a brand out there, communication among your management team is super important. I think when things are stable or increasing at a known rate, it's very easy for people to get into their silos. It's like, I don't need to talk about a person in marketing. I know how much to order, or the person in technology is like, I know what they're telling me, but I actually know what they need. And so I'm just going to build this over here and give it to them. In times that are uncertain, communication actually becomes super important. And so that's one thing that I'm stressing with a lot of my clients, and as well as people that I run into, really just the value of collaborative planning and kind of humbling yourself a little bit to recognize that good ideas can come from anywhere, and that if you don't have a group of people that is cross-functional working together, then your plan is going to be worse, especially in an environment like this. So that's some of the stuff that I'm excited about coming up, because it might actually help the companies improve.
Yeah, I mean, getting buy-in.
Yes.
Where it's at.
Yes. It's a small concept.
Yeah, small one. Just it's super easily tackled internally, as well as
Yeah, just ask your boss for a raise. That's how it works, right?
Super easy.
Right, super easy.
Well, Rick, this has been awesome. I mean, thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for being such a great friend, partner, supporter of the network as a whole. With that, we're going to wrap this up. Again, thanks, Rick, and thanks everybody for listening in. This has been a great time, and tune in for the next episode of the Digital Deep Dive. All right, everybody, we'll see you.